I finally rest and watch the sunrise on a grateful universe.
Welcome to the Kingspiration podcast. This is the place where you'll learn how to get unstuck and gain momentum in your life and business. Each week, we tackle the real aspects of entrepreneurship, personal development, relationships, and fitness. I'm your co-host, Ethan King, from Atlanta, Georgia, USA, entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author of Wealth Beyond Money.
And I'm your co-host, Justin King, no relation to Ethan, from Cape Town, South Africa, entrepreneur, speaker, and business growth strategist. Our journey crosses continents and cultures, sharing wisdom and experiences to propel you forward. Welcome to Kingspiration. Let's start the conversation.
So today, Ethan and I are going to be diving into the topic of the need for rest. And it may seem like quite a soft topic, but it's something that we overlook way too easily. And possibly one of the reasons that it's top of mind for me at the moment is more from a physical training point of view. I've realized that I am nearing the age of 40. I turn 40 in February next year. And I'm definitely feeling that I cannot train the same way that I used to train. My body does not recover in the same way. And this need for rest is becoming more and more and more prominent for me. But this obviously links to all areas of our life. But I find it easier to rest don't necessarily find it easier to rest, but I find it easier to be prompted to rest physically because my body is telling me you're tired. So my legs will say, you've run enough this week. You need to take a day off. I'm sore. Or my elbows will say, we don't need to go back and lift any more free weights because I am sore. So please, Justin, take a break. So it's easier to listen to that. But what I want to dive a little bit more into is the need for us to rejuvenate ourselves and be able to rest so that we're showing up mentally sharp, we're showing up emotionally rested for the people in our lives. And how do we make sure that we are doing that and we're giving it the attention that it deserves? Because as I say, it's far too easy to overlook it. Ethan, what are your first thoughts on the topic?
Well, I can't wait to dive into this one because this is probably the area where I struggle the most when it comes to sleep and rest. I'm just always going. My mind is spinning. So this is definitely one area in life that I have not quite been able to nail down and perfect. But I do have some tips that have helped me, and I want to hear some of your tips as well. So let's jump right in.
Yeah, amazing. So tip number one for me, and I've touched on it already, is just learning to identify the signs that you are needing rest. And that may sound silly. I'm speaking about signs outside of your body just being tired, outside of just feeling like I need some sleep. That's not always the first indication. So it may be things along the lines of not being able to be present when you are sitting down for dinner with your better half. Your mind is somewhere else. You are in a million places. That can be an indication, yes, that you're preoccupied with something else, but you're also just needing rest. And that rest may be not always sleep, but it may be quiet time to yourself. It may be time in nature. It is an opportunity to recharge. So how do you park what has been keeping you preoccupied enough so that you can be present for your better half? I heard a wonderful example of an individual who said he needed to have a transition period between coming home from work and spending time with his wife and kids. Part of that was just having some time for himself so that he could rest, but so much so that he would drive his car into the garage. He then had a door that went from his garage directly into his bedroom. The kids and his wife knew that they weren't to come and say hello to him when he came into the garage or went into his bedroom. He would go into his bedroom, he would have a shower, first take off his work clothes, have a shower, change into some casual clothes, his home clothes, take 5 minutes to himself to rest. And then he would go and say hello to his family. And he said just being able to do that meant that he could park his thought process, everything that was keeping him preoccupied from his workday, and transition into being rested to spend time with his family and then really be present. So that's always stuck with me. Rest is not about having to go and sleep have a 12-hour night's sleep. That's not always it. It can be those small moments of just grounding yourself to be able to then present the best version of yourself going forward. So first tip for me is just learn to find those signs. Am I showing up grumpy? Am I too preoccupied? Is my mind elsewhere? What are those signs outside of the physical, as I say, that your body is telling you? that you feel
Yeah.
like you need to just take a break from something.
I wonder if that's why happy hour exists. Like your story about the guy who has to transition from work to home.
Yeah.
Maybe bars were like, wait, you stop here and have some drinks first before you go home. And that's the happy hour in your day, right?
Take the edge off. Take the edge off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny.
Quite possible.
That's definitely a good one. You do have to pay attention to the signs, especially as we get older. You know, when I was younger, I would just push through any type of pain or, you know, tiredness. But, you know, it could lead to an injury, and then that takes you out of the game for weeks and months. And that really sucks. So definitely pay attention to the signs when you need some rest. One hack that I'll use is a coffee nap. And so if you're this strategy where like you drink a cup of coffee or an energy drink immediately before taking a nap. And then by the time the caffeine gets into your system and you wake up from your 15 or 20-minute nap or meditation, then you'll feel super energized and clear. So I'll do that sometimes during the day. If I'm feeling foggy or, you know, mentally off and the words just aren't coming out right, say, oh, I need a coffee nap, and I'll take that strategy and it works.
I like that. I have never heard of a coffee nap before, but I will take your word on that, and I'll definitely give it a bash. But that sounds, yeah, it's a power nap on steroid or on caffeine.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right. Number 2, you have metrics. Use tech to measure specific numbers. So I'm a big fan of this. I think I was first introduced to wearable tech back in like 2013 when the Fitbit first came out. So I was very loyal to Fitbit for a long time, and it, you know, measured your steps and your sleep. Just measuring that stuff, I dropped 20 pounds pretty quickly, and that was kind of my first foray into the world of fitness, and you know what's now led to my Six Pack Dads program and stuff. But I'm always a big fan. You know, what you measure improves. So now I stopped wearing the Fitbit, but I use the Pedometer Plus app on my watch to measure my steps. The reason I'm mentioning steps is because I've found a correlation between steps and sleep. So the more active I am throughout the day, the easier it is for me to sleep at night because I've just physically exhausted my body. In particular, the earlier in the day that I do some intense exercise or get a bunch of steps in through running or walking, like if I do it first thing in the morning, then I actually sleep better at night than if I exercise like in the middle of the day. So I found that correlation, but that's through the technology. And then I recently I'm trying out the Ultra Human ring, which is very similar to the Aura ring. And I don't really like wearing rings or sleeping with rings on, but it does do a great job of also tracking your sleep. So I use 2 different apps between the Ultra Human app and another app called Sleep Cycle to measure my sleep. And then I compare the results, and then I can adjust my day accordingly. What about you?
Amazing. Yeah, so I'm probably not as diligent as you are. So I've got no Aura ring or anything of that nature. I stick to good old Garmin. It measures my sleep cycles. I'm not as diligent as you are with regards to measuring my sleep cycles, but what I do use it for is, and I know there is the term active rest, but for my running, I'm very diligent about not pushing myself too hard. And I'm going to put that into the same box as rest for right now. So it's a case of doing a lot of the zone 2 cardio. So building your foundational cardio system. So being able to have a strong propensity to run far and long without going too fast. We want to be able to do that. So I diligently track my runs to make sure that, and for me, that's probably sitting at a heart rate of around 143 beats per minute. I want to sit in that zone for 80% of my runs, and then mix that up with some more high intensity sessions. But essentially, those are my rest runs that I'm doing the majority of the time. And I feel that my body is so much more responsive off the back of withholding or holding myself back during my actual exercise. So almost doing some active rest during the activities itself. And that makes a huge difference. So it's not always a case of having to do nothing. Rest is not always doing nothing, but it is not pushing yourself at the maximum all the time. I definitely went through a stage with both weight training and running where I thought I have to run 10Ks and I have to run 10Ks as fast as I absolutely can. I couldn't understand why I didn't feel like I was ever getting fitter, or I could never run further until
Mm.
I scaled that back and did a lot of zone 2 cardio, built that cardio foundation and that cardiovascular foundation, and that changed my running altogether. It's also why I cycle between pushing slightly heavier with the free weight versus low weight, higher reps in the gym.
Yeah.
It just allows your body to recover slightly differently and then almost get off a plateau that you're wanting to. So it would be that active type of rest from just pushing yourself at the max all the time.
Yeah, 100% agree. Great philosophies and strategies. All right, so step 3. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say step 3 is an interesting one because
Yeah.
we got medication down, which I have never taken anything to sleep. Never. I've never taken a sleeping pill. So I never. So I'm really fascinated to hear
no over the counter, no, not even like NyQuil, anything like that. Wow.
Never. Unless going in for any procedures that I've had over the years, been for whatever, to hospital a couple of times. They may have given me something, but that would be more pain med than anything else. But other than that, I have never taken anything to sleep.
Man, that is awesome, dude. Keep that up. I gotta say, I'm definitely not in that boat. And it's great. Like if you've never taken any type of sleep meds, please don't ever do it, because I think your body will develop the dependency. And by the way, this is not medical advice. We're just experience sharing on things that work for us and don't work for us. And me personally, I've gotten so bad at sleep that I think I've developed a dependency on every night I'll take something over the counter, some type of sleep aid, like an Advil PM or acetaminophen PM, or even like a sip of ZQuil or some melatonin. But I found that if it's very rarely, if I just go to sleep without taking anything, do I actually sleep well, because it's just been years and years. Now, I do try to stay away from prescription sleep meds. I'll only take those every once in a while, like usually only if I'm traveling, that it'll help me get over jet lag. I'll take an Ambien or prescription strength med. But man, for you to be completely medication free is awesome. And I would advise anyone out there, like, try natural sleep remedies first before popping any pills, because it probably have long-term effects that I don't know about yet.
Do you think the dependency, I'm really curious about this. Do you think the dependency is a physical dependency or a mental dependency? I'm going to liken it to taking a pre-workout for gym. If you take a pre-workout, I mean, if that's become a habit, when you go to gym and you don't have a pre-workout, that's on your mind. It's like, this is going to be a shit workout. Haven't had a pre-workout, might as well not train, and that just goes to side. Physically, you could still quite comfortably have a really good session. So do you think it's similar to that?
So now we're talking about the placebo effect, right? And is it
the placebo effect? 100%.
And do we? My thinking with the placebo effect is whether it works or not. Even if it's placebo, if it works, do it. And if it doesn't, because I don't know. I don't know if it's placebo or not, because when I lay down and I haven't taken meds, or sometimes when I lay down and I will have forgotten to take my sleeping aids, and I'll just be laying there awake, like, why can't I sleep? Why can't I sleep? And then I'll remember, oh, I didn't take anything tonight, and then take it. But yeah, I mean, that's always the thing. I think even with pre-workout, now I've noticed other effects of pre-workout. I don't know if you do. It's kind of a tangent, but like, it makes me go to the bathroom. If you take the right pre-workout, it kind of flushes out your system. So that's how I know the pre-workout is working well, and I kind of feel that tingle and that that itchiness, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's time to hit the weights hard right now. Like, this is that moment. So I do think there's science to it, but yeah, there may be a bit of a mental dependency and kind of tricking your mind.
Okay, but all in all, do not, if you can avoid, let's stay away from taking any medication. I will say, so I am very fortunate and touch wood that I really don't have a problem sleeping, and generally don't have a problem falling asleep. But it does get me into trouble sometimes with my partner if we've had a bit of an argument or something like that later in the afternoon or evening. I'll be in trouble the next day, which she'll be like, I can't believe we went to bed and you just fell asleep so easily. So it sometimes it gets me into a little bit of trouble, but all in all,
Yeah.
I'll take the ability. I'll take the ability to sleep.
That
The
is
one thing that
definitely a
you
superpower.
Yeah, the one thing that you did
Yeah.
say, Ethan, because sleep is an interesting one, is it's not always a case of. So a lot of times people think I've fallen asleep and I've slept the whole night. I'm rested, but it's also quality. You mentioned quality of sleep, and then also falling
Huge.
asleep is one thing, but staying asleep. And if you wake up in the early hours and then you can't get back to bed, that's really a problem as well. So
Yeah.
measuring your sleep as well as you have you noticed the quality of sleep improving around certain, or are there any habits that correlate to the quality of sleep for you as well?
Yeah, and these apps all show you your levels of sleep depth throughout the night. And, we go through the circadian rhythms because when we sleep, we kind of sleep in waves of deep sleep to light sleep, deep sleep to light sleep, without getting too scientific and talking about REM sleep and all of that in there. But it tells you your sleep quality and not just your duration. And one thing I do want to hit on while we're talking about medication is a lot of it is probably because I intake so much caffeine throughout my day that I'm sure that affects how I am at the end of the night. And I love the feeling of caffeine, the clarity. I mean, I drink multiple cups of coffee. I take the thermogenic, the fat burner pills that have caffeine in them. Then I'll drink a Coke later in the day. And it's like I drink an insane amount of caffeine earlier in the day, but that's probably what causes me to need some type of sleep aid at night. So I look forward to retirement, which we're going to talk about at some point soon, because then I probably won't take anything, like no coffee in the morning, no caffeine, just wake up and then, go to sleep at night with no
Yeah,
need for any type of sleep aids.
100%. All right. So then the fourth point that we wanted to touch on is just this concept of finding something to relax us versus things that just distract us. And you summed it up in a wonderful way. You said it's all about closing the mental loop for the day is another way to make sure that mentally we can switch off, which is ultimately going to impact our sleep as well. But just on the relax versus distract, what a lot of people do will think that I am resting or I'm relaxing by slumping down in front of the TV and watching 3 hours of Netflix back to back. But if you haven't closed that loop, all you're doing is distracting yourself from things that are burning energy. They are making you tired because they're on your mind. It's the proposal that you haven't got across the line, or the email that you haven't replied to, or that final chapter that you haven't written, whatever it may be. And it may be small things, but it's this idea of closing that mental loop, but finding something that actually relaxes you. So it's there's a net positive energy effect rather than a net negative energy effect, where a lot of times so much of the things that we're doing now, particularly in the evenings, it's just a distraction from everything rather than something that's going to help us relax and recharge.
Yeah, for sure. I've noticed that my sleep quality is much, much better when I close off any of those mental loops and I don't have things stirring in my head like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, because that just keeps me up at night. And even if I fall asleep, it'll be very light because in the back of my mind, it's like, oh, you need to finish up that project or send that email. I found with me, it's deadlines. When I have deadline oriented things coming up, like I'm working on a new book right now that I need to get to the publisher, or if I'm working on a big talk presentation and it's something that I can't finish in maybe like one day, a project that spans multiple days, sometimes my sleep quality will be very poor because I want to get it done and kind of close that chapter, and then it's not keeping me up. So yeah, the mental loops are super important. And if I can't close the chapter, at least if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll write it down, take some type of action, put it on a to-do list, or, send a message to my assistant or something like that to close the mental loop periodically so I can get back to sleep.
I think that is huge, and that's a great hack to share in itself. Is a pen and notepad next to your bed at night, because that happens to me. And if I don't have something next to the bed, I'll have 3 or 4, 5 thoughts coming, particularly in the early hours of the morning. These things will come up around, okay, what I still need to get done, or what's on the go today. And if I don't have something to write those down on, I really do struggle then to get back to sleep, and it really does impact how rested I feel the next day. And the anxiety levels with which I wake up, which would be another discussion altogether. But very often those two go hand in hand. If you're lying there and you're feeling like you cannot sleep, I'll get into a state of thinking, I'm going to be so tired tomorrow. How am I going to be able to perform at my best? And it becomes this flywheel of anxious energy that I just don't want to wake up with.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes I'll just get up in the middle of the night. Like if I can't sleep, I'll just get up and start working or trying to do whatever it is that's keeping me up. It's like, let me just go ahead and write the email. Let me go ahead and finish this chapter, whatever it is, because I'd rather be doing that than just laying there awake and being unproductive if I'm going to be awake anyway. And I found that if I at least just put on like my blue blocker glasses and do what I need to do, then I'll fall asleep a lot easier because it's giving my brain some relief.
Amazing. Right. So I think let's just recap what we've been through. So the need for rest is real. And ways that we need to go about that is we need to learn to identify the signs that we are needing rest. And not only the physical signs, so not only the signs that you need to rest physically, but the signs that you need to rest mentally as well. Take some time for yourself, and in order to be able to show up as the best version of yourself. Number 2 was look at having metrics that keep you honest and keep you on track to improving certain ways that you get rest. So some of the best and the easiest are going to be certain rings, the Aura ring, and the one that you mentioned, Ethan, is?
Ultra Human.
The Ultra Human ring. You can have a Fitbit, a Whoop, a Garmin, whatever it is. And a lot of these can track your sleep cycles. So if nothing else, if you just start focusing on the length of time that you're sleeping and the quality of sleep, it's a great starting point. So use tech to measure some of these numbers. Number 3, which wasn't medical advice, but it was the use of medication. Try where you can to avoid it altogether. If you're needing something to help you get to sleep, rather try a good old warm cup of tea or something of that nature. Or if you are really, really needing it, try stay away from anything that is being prescribed and take something from over the counter. But what we're ultimately going to say is try avoid it. And Ethan, I think drink less coffee ultimately as well to not affect that sleep. And then lastly, it was figuring out what is you need to do to relax versus what you are doing just to distract yourself. And you would be distracting yourself from a lot of the loops that you need to close. So close the loops. Get those last tasks done for the day. Write down what you need to do the next day so that you're mentally freed from them, and then find an opportunity to relax rather than just distracting yourself by Netflix, as an example. Ethan, anything to add?
No, these are great. But just at the end of the day, sleep is 1/3 of our lives, roughly. So if you're having trouble with it, please talk to your doctor, because Justin and I are not doctors. And even if we were, we're not your doctor. So make sure to go get professional advice, because it is a critical part of not only your performance, but your safety in life.
100%. Thanks, Ethan. We will see you on the next one.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Kingspiration. We hope this conversation sparked insights to ignite action in your life and business.
We're on this journey together, sharing our challenges and successes to help all of us take the next step towards building momentum and ultimately reaching our goals.
If you found value in today's episode, please share it with someone else who might benefit and leave us a 5-star review.
And remember to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on our weekly conversations. Until next time, keep rolling, keep growing, and keep being inspired.